Right, according to my clock, it's for now 5 past, and we'll open the meeting. Thank you. Good evening. Before we begin, may I advise you of a few housekeeping issues. I'd like to remind members that under the Council's remote meeting procedures, this meeting will be recorded and uploaded into the Council's website as soon as possible after the meeting. Can I also ask that all members, except for Cabinet members and group leaders, ensure your microphones and cameras are turned off until you're invited by myself to speak. Should you wish to speak, will you please indicate by raising the hand function on Teams. If this function ceases to work during the meeting, then please indicate that on the chat facility that you wish to speak. If attending by telephone, please indicate verbally when appropriate your wish to speak. With regard to voting on recommendations, if there's no dissent to a recommendation, I will accept the silence as agreement. Should a vote, however, be required, it is my intention all members should be asked individually for their vote. If during the meeting you have any technical difficulties, please let the Democratic Services Officer know as soon as possible. Before we commence the business of the meeting, I'd like to take this opportunity to advise members of the passing of a former Vale of Glamorgan Council member, Keith Stockdale, who passed away last Saturday peacefully with his family. Keith was a member of the Castleland Ward on the Vale Council from 2004 to 2008, at the same time as Vale Council town member. Prior to this period in office, Keith's also been, I understand, a councillor in the Vale Borough Council from 1979 to 1983. And out of respect, we now have a 1-minute silence. Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. Right, shall we commence our apologies for absence, please? Have we any?
Councillor Stuart Edwards and Councillor Andrew R.T. Davis.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. They will be recorded. I shall have a roll call of members, please.
Good evening. We'll start with Councillor Julie Aviat, please.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Vincent Bailey.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Rhiannon Birch.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Jonathan Bird.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Bronwyn Brooks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Liz Burnett.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor George Carroll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Christine Cave.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Janice Charles.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Millie Collins.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jeff Cox.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Robert Crowley.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Pamela Drake.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Vince Driscoll.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ben Gray.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Owen Griffiths.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Stephen Griffiths.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Tony Hampton. Councillor Hampton. I'll come back. Councillor Sally Hanks.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Nick Hodges.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Hunter Jarvie.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Gwyn John.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Ian Johnson.
Presennol a dim byd ddatgan.
Councillor Gordon Kemp.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Peter King.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Kevin Marnie. Councillor Catherine McCaffer.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Anne Moore.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Neil Moore.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Michael Morgan.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Jane Norman.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Rachel Nugent-Finn.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Andrew Parker.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Bob Penrose.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Sandra Perks.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Andrew Robertson.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Leighton Rowlands.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Ruba Sivanianam.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor John Thomas.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Neil Thomas.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Steffan William.
Presennol a dim byd ddatgan.
Councillor Margaret Wilkinson.
Present, nothing to declare.
Councillor Eddie Williams.
Present and nothing to declare.
Councillor Mark Wilson.
Present and nothing to declare.
And Councillor Margarita Wright. I think I just about caught that, so I'll go back to Councillor Tony Hampton. Thank you very much. Got that as well. That concludes the roll call. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We go on to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of March 2021.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I formally move the minutes, please?
Can somebody second that, please?
Probably second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Those minutes are accepted.
I think Councillor Johnson's got his hand up, Madam Mayor.
I beg your pardon?
Councillor Johnson has his hand up.
Councillor Ian Johnson. Sorry, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Leader. It's if you remember at the last meeting, due to the lateness of the hour and the length of the response, Councillor Burnett asked if I would accept a written response to a question that I'd submitted. I think, given that the question was due to be tabled at the meeting, I think it would be appropriate if the answer to that question was appended in some way to the minutes. I know it's been circulated to councillors, but that question was in public. The answer should also be available in public, and it's not been included in here. I think it'd be helpful if that was appended to the minutes. It's on page 593. So I would be very grateful if that would be accepted as an amendment to the minutes, Madam Mayor. Also, a second point, which is perhaps an aside, but a number of occasions in the last meeting, of course, we held a roll call vote on matters that were being voted upon, and on some occasions, because there was not a specific request for a recorded vote, those have not been included within the minutes. I appreciate that the difficulties of doing that at every point, but if we are going through the bother of a recorded vote because of the nature of the digital meetings that we're holding, I also do think it would be appropriate if those votes were also included within the minutes, and I would like to move that they are included when those took place. I think I recognise them on page 583 and 586. Those are two separate matters, Madam Mayor, but I hope that they could be considered for inclusion within the minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rowlands wishes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to apologise for my comments to Councillor Neil Thomas on the last meeting, so I just wanted to put that in there as well.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowlands.
Madam Mayor, in terms of Councillor Johnson's issues, would you accept that we go back to democratic to find out the right procedure? I thought that this had been discussed at some time or another. If not, then we obviously need to sort the matter out once and for all. Do you accept that?
Madam Mayor, could I just comment there? The procedure that we've adopted is that if a recorded vote has been requested by the 6 members, then the vote will be recorded, and that's in line with the procedure. So we will undertake a check, but it's my understanding that we've adhered to that when drafting the minutes, but certainly we will check back to ensure that they are accurate in that regard.
Well, I certainly have copies of recorded votes in my agenda, in my copy of the minutes on page 557 and page 5. What's the other one? But no, page 557 definitely has recorded votes on it.
Madam Mayor, there are several recorded votes in there. However, there are also occasions where there is reference to a vote, and for example, there was a bit of an uproar at one point, and lots of people saying, "I want to vote on this." It's not hugely important, but it seems to me to be an appropriate matter of public record. And seeing as we've gone through the bother of holding a roll call vote, it makes sense to. I'm not going to push that any further. I'm happy to receive any comments later on, Madam Mayor. But I would like, if possible, to have the full response to the question on the curriculum for Wales, included within the minutes if possible, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Johnson.
Madam Mayor, Councillor Marnie's got his hand up, I think.
Oh, yes, I can see. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not coming up so clear on my screen this time as it was last. Councillor Marnie, would you like to speak, please?
Yeah, I'd put it back down, actually. I mean, it's fairly obvious this is a recorded vote. They must be included. I see some recorded votes in there, but it's not up for discussion, is it? It must be in the minutes. It is a voted for recorded vote. So I'm not entirely sure. I got a bit lost by Ian Johnson's bit at the end then. Were you saying that you don't feel that all the recorded votes are included, Ian? Is that what you would say?
I said that I was, well, I'd wait to hear what Democratic Services had to say about whether it's appropriate or not. I mean, I think they should. I thought they should be in there, but it's a matter for others.
Well, all recorded votes surely have to be in the minutes. Are you saying that some aren't? I can see 1 or 2 here in minutes I've got here, but it's fairly obvious. If it's a recorded vote, they must be in the minutes. Is that lack of transparency enough in this council anyway? I'll leave it at that now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie.
Madam Mayor, can I just intervene at this point, Jeffrey?
Yes, certainly.
For clarification, yes. The definition, I think the monitor officer already made reference to it. The council procedure for recorded vote is 6 members indicating there's a recorded vote. I appreciate the virtual meetings and the technology and members asking for their vote to be through a roll call method, if you want to call it that, but that is not a recorded vote that meets the criteria.
Thank you very much. Councillor Marley, can you please lower your hand indicator, please? It's confusing. Thank you. Right, anyone else wishes to make any comments on this?
Madam Mayor, I would
yes,
I'd just suggest that, subject to the necessary check being undertaken by Democratic Services that Councillor Johnson referred to, that the minutes be approved, it being noted that the response to the question referred to be appended to the minutes.
Thank you very much. Are you happy with that, Councillor Johnson?
Can I formally move that then, Madam Mayor, please?
Thank you very much. And we have a seconder, please.
So that's recorded properly.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, we move on to a report from the Managing Director. Leader, I think you're taking this one.
No, I think, are you receiving any announcements from yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed my announcements. I do apologise. Right, I do have a few, actually, surprisingly. Firstly, I'll take the opportunity to advise you that on the sad passing of His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, I sent a letter of condolence on behalf of the people of Vale, Glamorgan, to Her Majesty the Queen and the royal family. I've also recently forwarded the condolence messages that were placed on the Council's online condolence book to Her Majesty. I have since received a letter of thanks from Prince Philip's private secretary. I also added a message of condolence to a programme broadcast live on Bro Radio to acknowledge the announcement of the Duke's death. And secondly, you may recall that the last meeting of the Council advised a public awareness raising exercise, the Mayor's Grant Fund, being undertaken. And since that meeting, eight applications of fund have been approved, totaling the cost of £1,692, which was a fantastic response. Hopefully we'll have the same on the next one. I've also received a petition provided by Barry Action for Nature, calling from the Vale Council to better protect urban trees. This I will pass on to the relevant officers. Now I think we can move on. Item 5.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this is the use of the Managing Director's emergency powers, and they're just for noting by Council. Thank you very much. Can I formally move? I formally note.
And formally second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I think leaders can take item 6.
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I could, I would like to take items 7A, B and C first, which is to inform Council of the use of the urgency decision procedures under 1414. They are simply for noting, and the reason I do take that first is because 7A actually refers to 6A, because 7A actually sends the report to Council, which is where we are now. So can I formally move 7A, to 7A, B and C, please?
Formally second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, you wish to come in on this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that these are for noting. However, I would appreciate, if possible, we could arrange a briefing for councillors or for group leaders with regards to the expression of interest regarding Aberthaw Power Station. Obviously this is a matter of wider interest, and it would be great to have as much information as possible, because obviously this is something that is happening in the future.
With respect, Madam Mayor, this is for noting.
I appreciate, as Group Leader, it's for noting. I'm not asking for that. I'm just making that point as a request for future consideration.
Okay, I'll consider it. But the other thing is that it is part of the 22nd of March Council meeting, Cabinet meeting, and the detail are in there because it's an expression of interest, nothing more.
Right, Councillor Robertson, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, wouldn't 7C possibly have been brought before Environment and Regeneration scrutiny? I understand it's just for noting and it's an expression of interest, but I think something is important to this. I think maybe it should have gone to E&R before it went to Cabinet.
With the greatest of respect, this is for noting, and the Cabinet report explains exactly why it used 1414, the urgency procedure, because it had to be in by a deadline, and there was no way that that could go to a committee. If anybody wanted to call it in, then obviously they could have done so.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Now I've got an indicator on my screen of another hand up, but I don't have a name for it. If anybody else is indicating they wish to speak, can they please let me know?
Councillor Kemp.
Councillor Kemp, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, unsurprisingly, Madam Mayor, I would also mention item 7C. I fully appreciate what the leader says, that this is a matter that's been dealt with effectively without allowing any proper consideration and scrutiny. This is an extremely significant matter. Even if we ignore the issue of public concern over such a proposal, we are looking at a potentially colossal, massive investment in the Vale. Could create many jobs. So I think it's something that should have been discussed. I appreciate there are always deadlines on this, but if I read what was said in the original report, the requests for expressions of interest were sent out by central government, Westminster government, I think in November. And it's surprising me when we only come to something that recommends an expression of interest, that there wasn't the possibility of having this brought through the proper procedure when this report didn't go to Cabinet until the 22nd of March, which I appreciate, but that late stage, it had to be dealt with as a matter of urgency because of the deadline. So I'm very surprised and concerned that this wasn't put before Cabinet and potentially referred to scrutiny committees before this date.
Madam Mayor, this is with respect, this is not a debate. But what we can do, and there's no reason why we can't, is to, if you want a report to ENR, there can be a report to ENR. But it's very simply an expression that came from national government. There were no interests, and then this did come about at a very late time, because it was noted that Aberthorpe Power Station was up for sale too. So there was an issue in terms of that. But what we can do is I will more than happy have a meeting with the group leaders, and I'm more than happy to ask for an information report to go to ENR. But actually, all the information is actually contained within the Cabinet report of the 22nd of March. So the point is, Madam Mayor, this is a matter for noting, because the use of the emergency procedure has been used.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going. I concur with the leader's comments. You know, an expression of interest or allowing that to happen is for us to be given information on the detail of what the actual proposal is. At the moment, we don't have that, and without additional details, then we can't make a justified decision. So I just wanted to add to that, and that's why the report, as was in the Cabinet, there was a report. It gives a background to it, but we certainly haven't got enough detail to make any valid decisions on how it's going to go forward. And we're not saying that we're going to agree to it unless we get that information. So, as the leader said, it's not up for discussion because there isn't anything we can make a decision on. So I just have to be noted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
Basically, Madam Mayor, what was asked was, are there any sites which are available of this particular size? And there aren't many. And this just happened to come out because of the fact that Aberthorpe is now closing. It's had the support of the city deal, and it had the support of the Western Gateway, because there's also an expression going in from the Western Gateway. It is an expression of interest of land, nothing more.
Thank you, Leader.
And again, it's for nothing.
Thank you, Leader. Any other questions? Any other comments? No, we move on. Right, should we go back to item 6?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Item 6 is a bit of housekeeping, really. It's requesting the approval of the Vale Glamorgan annual delivery plan. If you recall, this has been to all scrutiny committees. It's been to Cabinet, and basically this is sets out the annual delivery plan, which was developed in accordance with the corporate plan, which you've already agreed. The annual delivery programme is what we used to call part 1 of the improvement plan, and it is assigned to all the council wellbeing objectives. As I said, the detail will be undertaken in 21-22 to deliver the objectives. It's basically the skeleton on which the service plans are based, and the service plans went to Cabinet earlier this month. So basically, this is just a matter of housekeeping of we adopt the annual delivery plan, which has been, as I said, considered by scrutiny committees and Cabinet alike.
Thank you very much, Leader.
Can I formally move?
And formally second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. That is agreed.
Thank you.
It goes with these iterator knots, dare I say it. Right, item 8. To receive questions from the Cabinet, from the council members. Question 1, it's from Councillor John to the Cabinet Member for Education and Regeneration.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor John. Llantwit Major Comprehensive is a popular and successful school and is regularly fully subscribed as a result of admissions from outside its catchment area. It does, however, appropriately serve its catchment community. Our annual review of school admission arrangements was reported to Cabinet on the 22nd of March 2021, following the consultation period and discussion at Learning and Culture Scrutiny Committee. The report specifically discussed projected pupil admission numbers for Llantwit Major and made recommendations for adjustments to the school. Those pupil projections indicate that for the next 6 years, there are places available for pupils residing out of catchment after all local pupils are accommodated. The number of places available for non-catchment pupils range from 0 in September 2022 due to a high birth year, increasing to 39 spaces in September 2027. Pupil projections are monitored closely in order to respond to any changes in demand. An example of this would be the recent secondary catchment changes, meaning that pupils residing in Roos are now within the catchment area of Cowbridge Comprehensive School instead of Llantwit Major. I would be very happy to meet with you to explore the projections in greater depth and discuss any concerns you might have.
Thank you very much. Councillor John?
Supplemental, please.
Certainly.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. Thank you, Liz. And what I'd just like to mention is that taking into consideration the numbers you mentioned, we've currently got 370 houses in St Athan being built. We've got another 240 on the list on outline planning. There's further development in St Athan coming up on the LDP. And quite honestly, in the long term, we've got to take this in real consideration. While we've got this opportunity now, it would be foolish to sort of build a school somewhere else. I firmly believe that Llantwit's Centre of Learning needs to accommodate the current catchment, and the current catchment will not cover Llantwit School. Quite honestly, the numbers will not be met. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor John.
Thank you, Councillor John. I can understand your concerns, and that's why I have asked for all those figures to be made available. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm very, very happy to meet with you to go through those figures in whatever depth that is possible. Sometimes it can be difficult because we can't shut up a school as soon as pupils from catchment are there. Our schools have to accept schools from out of their catchment, and as a result, a lot of our schools are full for in-year transfers. But as I said, I'm totally happy to meet with you and go through all those figures until you're happy that every aspect of catchment area children has been fully explored.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Second question is from Councillor John to the leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor John Gwynn. I do understand that new developments can have an impact on the existing community infrastructure and also create a need for improved or new facilities, including school places, parks, public transport and community facilities. In these cases, planning obligations serve an important role in delivering these facilities. As you know, the Council's adopted supplementary planning guidance sets out the framework for securing planning obligations via Section 106 agreements. Developers are required to provide work, services or financial contributions to help mitigate the impact that arises as a consequence of their development. So in terms of securing successful 106 contributions to mitigate the impact in Llantwit Major, education, I won't cover that because that's been covered in the previous questions, but further examples clearly are Section 106 of £238,000 for developments at Plasnewydd Farm and land adjacent Llantwit Major bypass to support some community facilities, particularly in things I think of towards Llantwit Major changing rooms. There's also a 20k grant to Llantwit Major Tennis Club for the new flood lighting and fencing, And again, that's come from Plasnewydd Farm. In terms of work and developers, the council is also due to launch a consultation in the forthcoming weeks. And that's going to be regarding an upgrade to the play area at Windmill Lane, with the potential for up to £69,000 investment using Section 106, again received from Plasnewydd Farm. There's also a schedule to be a comprehensive investment programme of bus shelters enhancement for this year for 6 shelters that I'm aware of, again using Section 106 money, and also received from Plasnewydd Farm, and also match funded from a local authority. So there are lots of Section 106 money being spent, but we need to consider what you're talking about. With regard to the health services, that's clearly outside our remit. But what I can tell you, I've looked up some figures, and when the LDP was consulted upon in 2013, and I must admit it's now quite a while ago, the Health Board advised this. They said, and I'll quote from them, work undertaken across the Primary, Community and Intermediate Care Health Board, and that's in August 2013, identified that there were 17 GP practices located in the Vale Glamorgan. Most are working within their capacity and have sufficient growth capacity existing within their premises, apart from Penarth. And that was to accommodate the level of growth for the number of houses associated within the LDP deposit plan. And this would obviously need to be revised if the LDP were to alter significantly following the public consultation. I know in terms of Penarth, then the area that they are operating at a full capacity and they are likely to have new expanded premises. But that isn't currently, or that wasn't the position in terms of Llantwit Major. What they said was there was enough provision and capacity within the system. Now, I recognise that position may have changed since the adoption of the LDP. And what I promise you is to raise the issue with the Health Board to investigate if their opinions have changed. But I have to tell you that during the conversations our officers often have with Health, that's not been the case to date, but whether or not it's been asked specifically, I don't know, but it's something that I will do. Notwithstanding that, there is a suitable provision in policy terms in the LDP which can support new or enhanced health facilities. So should there be necessary. So if we can talk to Health and get them to work on it, Section 106 could actually be used for issues. Because there's a policy which talks about provision of health, and it actually says where you can have developments which can provide new or enhanced health facilities, including the co-location of healthcare, school, library and leisure facilities and other community services in accessible locations, and they would be favoured in terms of the Section 106. As you're aware, and I've come to talk about now the land at former Eagleswell Primary School, Llantwit Major, that is actually allocated for 72 dwellings and was therefore, the site was appropriated by Housing and Building Services and also to the Housing Revenue Account in 2020, in March 2020, that was at the end of the year. And that was done obviously for the purpose of housing development. Now, the current intention, as you know, is to procure the development partner during 21-22 to develop a mixed tenure of scheme for homes for market sale and social rent. And the reason social rent is to try to address the significant need in new council homes in Llantwit Major, with 425 applicants currently on the housing list. Now, I know that you would like that to be reconsidered. So what I would like to say finally is I understand the issues you raised are important to you and to others. And perhaps I propose we can have a meeting to discuss this further as soon as possible, where we consider all the issues raised, and as well as having a conversation, I will have a conversation with the Local Health Board on their current plans, but more particularly their aspirations for Llantwit Major area. As I said, when the LDP was in place, they said there was a provision. They haven't said anything since, but whether or not the question has specifically been asked, I don't know, but we'll certainly ask that question and see where Health come from, because if we're going to have a health facility, it has to be provided by them and not us. But obviously, if they were doing that, there could be some Section 106 development money goes towards it. I hope that helps, Gwyn.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor John.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I just ask a supplemental, please?
You can indeed.
Yeah, just to say that a lot has happened in 8 years with the Health Board, and we're currently been looking at reshaping clinical services. And I met with the Health Board 2 years ago, and they're looking to build a hub in the Western Vale. Now, this is the ideal location for a hub, and quite simply, when we went to Facebook, we had 3,052 hits and support of a health centre on Eagleswell Road in 3 days. So if the public support this in numbers, would you be prepared to listen to public demand?
Well, I've told you, basically, in terms of a health provision, it is outside our remit, but it is something I will have a conversation with health, because if health have said, because as far as I'm aware, the only health provision that they've talked about having is an increase within the Penarth area, because the capacity was overwhelmed then, and they still haven't provided it. So we're talking 2013 till now. But yes, look, I'm more than happy to talk to health and see whether or not we can change their minds, ask them, find out where they are, and find out what their current aspirations are. But in terms of a health provision, it has to come from health, and it can't come from us. But yeah, I'm happy to sit down with you and we can go through all this anyway. Are you happy with that? Okay. Thank you, Gwyn.
Thank you, Councillor John. Thank you, Leader. Moving on, question 3 is from Councillor Dr. Ian Johnson for Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. You asked the question in 3 parts. 5 Mile Lane improvements is a total of 22,091,613, all from Welsh Government grant. Junction 34 to A48. 426,632 all Welsh Government grants. In the 3rd part, I think what you're asking about is the Dinas Powys transport infrastructure work that included a bypass. And that answer rather depends upon when you start. But in 2018 to 19, 15,813 from Section 106. In 2016-17, 27,118 from Welsh Government grant. In 2017-18, 92,386 from Welsh Government grant, and since then 54,749 from Vale of Glamorgan funds, making a total of £192,066.
Thank you very much. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, supplemental question. Thank you very much for the detailed answer there, Councillor King. It's clear that some schemes have been more successful in gaining grant funding on this than others. Unfortunately, I missed your reports to Cabinet today on the Dinas Powys transport information, which was from because I arrived a few minutes late. I was just wondering, given the current state of play, will you be meeting with stakeholders to determine a way forward for Dinas Powys bypass and the various other issues there following the Senate election next week?
What Cabinet decided, I reported to Cabinet the Scrutiny Committee's recommendations, which was specifically asking for us to embark upon a full and proper public consultation. I did not feel I could support that recommendation because I feel that Welsh Government have announced a new pathway for dealing with roads and moving very much away from road building into tackling climate change, which I really find some difficulty objecting to. And therefore I didn't feel it was terribly worthwhile spending a huge amount of money, which would only raise people's hopes when we know that the road will not be funded, or no further work will be funded. I asked my officers what the cost of consultation might be under the current circumstances, and if we reflect upon what happened on the junction 34 to A48, that totaled some £20,000, and therefore I really couldn't recommend that this council puts another £22,000 into a scheme that we know is going nowhere. Now, you touch upon some of the other issues, and I'm delighted you have done, because it's always frustrated me that the work was seen as the Dinas Powys bypass, and it wasn't. It was very much the Dinas Powys transport infrastructure, because it included all sorts of things, including cycle networks and better access to train stations. A personal soapbox article of mine, because it really bugs me that the train, we're all being encouraged to use the train, and some people just can't get on and off the train without having to climb all manner of steps. Now, that side of work, my officers and I, we think we can probably pursue some of that through City Region, and some of the work that's going on with the rail routes, certainly for the trains. And we've also been awarded money for active travel for the Newport to Barry route. So I think some of the other elements of the transport infrastructure we can pursue. Now, you mentioned after the election, can we wait and see who's in charge before we decide what we do next, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Councillor Johnson. Moving on, question 4, again from Councillor Johnson to the leader.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. It's anticipated that the reports for the Arts Central consultation and the Barry Town Centre Gateway regeneration will be presented to Cabinet in June 2021. Just for clarity. And the Section 19 flood water management report of December the 20th, that flooding report is still being in preparation and will be brought forward to Cabinet as soon as possible. I can't give you a date for that one. It's a complicated report, and we need to make sure that we cover it all. So I haven't got a date that I can give you on those.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, just thank you very much for those. Naturally, I'm going to assume that with regards to the Section 19 report, then stakeholders will be involved and engaged with that as soon as possible. I'm aware that there was a previous hope that it would be ready in March, and then it was April. And I think the whole point of bringing this question is just to make sure that these things don't slide and are kept in the public eye. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much.
I will assure you that the Section 19 report will come forward as soon as practically possible.
Thank you, Leader. Question 5, again from Councillor Johnson to the Cabinet Member for Legal, Regulatory and Planning Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. The question you asked is what powers does the Vale Glamorgan Council have to promptly remove graffiti tags from private retail premises and properties, in particular reference to town centres? Yeah, I thought you would have known that answer by now, but as you're aware, the responsibility of removing graffiti is with the landowner of a building and premise. The council doesn't have a duty to remove graffiti on private land. However, the council will approach a private landowner if there's a graffiti on the premises that is of an offensive nature, and offer to remove it without accepting any liability for any damage caused during the removal process. Otherwise, the owner of the building premises has the duty to remove it. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Supplementary.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that response, Councillor Williams. You may or may not be aware there's been a spate of tagging and graffiti around Barry Town Centre and perhaps other areas as well, which has a substantially negative impact on the work that the council is trying to achieve in improving our town centres. I was wondering whether the council is aware of whether CCTV was able to capture the people who've been doing this, and whether anything was possible to be done using the limited powers that we have to improve the area. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Johnson. As you're aware, the community safety team are usually the ones that are quite active in this, because it is antisocial behaviour. So they will look to see and investigate, hopefully get the perpetrators and take action from there. I can't comment on the individual cases that you've just brought in there, but I can find out further information to see if we've got, what information we have. But you're quite right. it isn't. It's an it's an issue that does affect us and tends to take comes in spades, doesn't it? Where but I can get back to you on that.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Johnson, happy with that reply? Yep. Thank you. Moving on. Question 6, again from Councillor Johnson to Cabinet Member for Housing and Building Services. Councillor Wilkinson, you're muted.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Unfortunately, due to the restrictions of international travel during the global pandemic, COVID-19, my teeth are... No refuge people were resettled in the Vale of Glamorgan during the year 2020-21. The last family arrived in January 2020, just before the resettlement pathway closed and the scheme entered into a break. I'm delighted to announce, however, that the UK government achieved its target to resettle 20,000 refugees across the UK in March 21. Under the formal Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme, and has since contributed to the global UK resettlement scheme. The authorities expect to support us to 4 families during the first year of the new scheme, subject to the availability of suitable accommodation, and is currently preparing to receive 2 families. The Vale of Glamorgan Council should be very proud of its record and its successes, and looks forward to continue its viable work in partnership with the local and regional stakeholders. And I'm hoping it won't be long before we can receive the new families. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Johnson.
Yes, could I just say thank you very much to the Cabinet Member for the response. I think it's very important that we in the Vale play a role in Wales as a nation of sanctuary, and I appreciate the efforts of everybody working towards this and hope that we can improve that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. I can't wait until we get the next family here.
Thank you. Moving on, question 7 from Councillor Stephen William to a Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood Services and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor William. The proposed traffic regulation order for residential parking controls on Barry Island will be advertised later this week, 29th, in the local press, and notice will be placed on site for the 21-day statutory consultation period. Residents and other parties will have the opportunity to comment formally on the proposals. Should no comments or objections be received during the statutory consultation period, then the Council can progress with implementation of the traffic regulation order and proposed resident parking scheme in early summer 21. However, if objections are received, a report will need to be submitted to the Council's Cabinet to consider those objections before deciding on the next steps.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor William.
Yeah, supplementary. Many thanks, Councillor King, for your comprehensive answer as always. So when you say objections, obviously with this period of consultation, which I thought had happened already, I'm surprised that this is a continuous consultation, because obviously these letters have already gone out months ago. What I worry about is further. So my question is basically, with further consultation going on, this gives more opportunity for people to add to the suggestions they've already made. And therefore my fear is, and my question to you is, worst case scenario, how much of a delay do you think could happen? I mean, we're saying early summer, but could this actually not be implemented until like next summer or something? If we get more comments in, by how much will it delay the process?
You and I share the same anxiety, Stefan. This is the legal statutory consultation bit. We've already done the what you might call the PR bit, and all indications are there is widespread support. But you will know that if somebody responds within the statutory scheme of things, then a formal report will have to be written and produced and brought to Cabinet. That means it all has to be published, and we have to wait the 7 days. I mean, it need not be a massive delay, but it is an anxiety to me because, like most things in life, everything seems to slip. I share your concern. I desperately hope that all the issues have been covered. And my general comment to everybody is, look, this is an attempt to try and address a complex problem. Please give us a chance. We can tweak it in the light of operational experience. Please don't object just yet.
Thank you. Sorry, is it what was the sort of worst case scenario? Was the question? I was trying to get an answer. But I do appreciate what Councillor King is saying.
I think the answer to that one is how long is a piece of string? But it would only be the time taken to collate and write it up. But then, as you know as well as I do, you've got to publish the Cabinet report in advance, and then there's got to be a 7-day call-in period. So 2 or 3 weeks. I desperately hope no more. But you know, there's always some spanner that somebody drops when I don't expect it.
Well, thank you for your indulgence, Councillor King, and thank you, Madam Mayor, as well. Thank you.
Thank you. The final question, question 8, is from Councillor Nick Hodges for the Cabinet Member for Education and Regeneration. Councillor Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Burnett.
And Councillor Hodges. The report agreed by Cabinet on the 22nd of March, the proposed events programme 2021-2022 with coronavirus update, as everything is at the moment, outlined that following the coronavirus outbreak, the government advised that large public gatherings such as events and festivals can contribute to the spread of the virus and should be avoided. Legislation brought in March 2020 made it illegal to hold large-scale events. So in response, the council cancelled all council-run events, plus all events held on council-owned land until further notice. The aim of the Cabinet report was to suggest possible safe event ideas so that preparations could be made to allow for events to take place once restrictions and regulations change and are relaxed. It should be noted that events would not take place without specific approval from Council and the multi-agency Event Safety Advisory Group, and all proposed events would be subject to COVID-19 regulations in place at that time. The report set out that the emphasis for council-led events will be refocused with the proposed 2021-22 events programme aiming to deliver safe community-based events that support the economy of our town centres that have been under such pressure in the last year, coast and country parks within the Vale, in line with the relevant Welsh Government COVID-19 event legislation. It's recommended that any events would take place over a longer time period, so therefore extending the season and alleviating pinch points in footfall that traditional one-day or weekend events have tended to cause.
Thank you, Councillor Burnett. Councillor Hodges.
Yeah, thank you for that. Obviously, we need to kickstart our tourist economy if and when we're allowed. I was just wondering if there's any additional budget envisaged to help us to do that.
The budget was already agreed in amongst the Cabinet report, and I think the total was about 115,000 if I'm not mistaken, but there is a degree of flexibility. What we're looking at the moment is pulling together a plan, working with local creative businesses, because we also recognise that they have been under huge pressure as well in the last year, and very much aiming for a locally grown, locally delivered events programme that supports our local economy. So hopefully there'll be news soon. And I also think that we've got some Meet the Buyer events lined up. So again, local creatives can actually get involved in supporting their own communities.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burnett. That was the last of the questions. I have no items which are urgent, and I have nothing under part 2. So with that, I say thank you all and good night.
Good night. Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night all.